Hey everybody, I decided to do something just a little differently with this video, mainly for my friends and family who may just be tuning into the channel to give me some moral support as I get this started. I figure if I really put the effort into this channel and can grow it, I'm going to do these videos eventually, so I might as well do one at the beginning to get some practice. While I've been editing my videos, I've been thinking about all this information I've got on my screen that I'm kind of just, it's second nature to me, and I'm accustomed to seeing it. And I realized that it might not be second nature to some of my viewers. So I figured I'd put this together, explain all the data I have on my screen, so that when you're watching, you can kind of take in the same stuff I am. If you watch this video and you like what you see, make sure you give me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications. I'm putting out multiple videos a week, and I know a lot of them have been full-length races. And I'm going to have to shorten them up. I'm working on plans to put together some highlight videos that'll be a lot shorter and highlight all the action from the week. So as we go through this, I'm going to be highlighting sections of the screen. Look for the blue arrow that points out what we're talking about. And without any further ado, let's get started. So the majority of the things I use are provided for free by an add-on called iRacing apps. It's created and maintained by one guy, and it's server-based. I'm not going to get into a lot of the technical details on this. I encourage any iRacer that happens to be watching this video, if you don't have add-ons and you're looking for something, you've seen them in other people's videos, you've heard people on chat talking about them, check iRacing apps out at simracingapps.com. Everything is free. It's updated once a season with the new builds to try and take all the data that iRacing has put in and utilize it. Everything is really easy to use. You can add whatever widgets you want. You can resize them. You can place them wherever you want on your screen, and that makes it totally handy. So I encourage anybody who's looking for them, check them out. So the first thing we're going to look at is the scoring pylon, which is in the top left-hand corner of the screen. The top left-hand corner of that box will show what state the race is in, green, caution, white if it's the last lap, checkered if the race just got over. And then right next to that is going to be like a TV style scoring monitor, basically, where it shows you the leader, what his last lap time was, then everybody who's below him in the standings. Behind their name it shows how far behind the leader they are. So the next thing we're going to take a look at is the lap timing box, which is in the bottom left hand corner of the screen. There's a lot of information in it. Some of it I use, a lot of it is just for anybody who may be watching, just so they can get a little bit more information. So the first thing is the lap run tally. So basically what this does is it tells me how many laps into the race I am before the slash, and after the slash that tells me how many laps this current run is, which is how many laps it's been since I last pitted. That will help me make crucial decisions later in the race on whether or not I need to pit for tires to make up some positions or not. The next line shows how many laps there are to go. So before the slash it shows me how many laps are left, and after the slash it shows me the total number of laps in the race. So in this example we have 50 laps left of 50 because I'm sitting on the grid in this shot. So the next line down is the position class line. And what this shows is my position in the running order before the slash, and if we were in a multi-class race where there's different types of cars running, it would show me my position in just my car group. Don't really use that because I don't do road racing a lot because I suck at it. So really just look at the number before the slash. Next is the ahead behind display, which shows me the driver that is in front of me and how far ahead of me they are, and the driver that's behind me and how far behind me they are. This is handy to see if I'm catching a guy or see if the guy behind me is catching me. Then we have at the top right hand corner green time, which tells you what time it is in the sim. Whenever we run a race, there's a certain time that the race is set at, so I could be running at 9 o'clock at night and it would be 3 p.m. in the sim. So that kind of gives you an idea what time of day we're running. I'm going to go off on a little explanation tangent for this one. So the next line down, you're going to see some yellow text. The first number is my iRating. iRating is a measure of your skill set behind the wheel of every car that you could drive. So basically when you get into a session, you're going to be in a split with people of similar skill level based on iRating. If you finish in the top half of your field, you're going to gain iRating. If you finish in the bottom half of the field, you're going to lose iRating. Getting a higher iRating will put you with better drivers, which means the racing is typically better. This system prevents really bad drivers getting into lobbies with really good drivers. And the next thing you're going to see is a number in parentheses. What that is it calculates what my iRating would change if I finished in the position I was right now. So in this example, I would gain 16 points of iRating. So the next letter number combination you see speaks to my license class level, which is an A, and my safety rating, which is the number. This determines what cars you can drive and how safely you drive, and then it rolls into the next set of numbers, which is a number, a slash, and then a number and an X. So that represents how many incidents I've got in the race. The 0 represents that I have 0 incidents, and the 25X represents that if I reach 25 incidents, I am disqualified from the event. I could go into a very long explanation of iRacing's incident safety rating system, but I think it's best if we leave that for another video. Very simply, the elapsed line just shows how much time has passed in the current session. The next line shows my current lap time. It will count in real time as I'm going from start-finish line, doing a full lap, and hitting the start-finish line again. The last line will display my previous lap's time. The best line displays what lap I ran my best lap and the lap time of that lap. Now we take a look at my new best friend. The official races that I get into don't require a pit stop for fuel, so I don't typically need a fuel calculator, but I've recently gotten into running longer races in my leagues and the NASCAR iRacing series, which is half-length races as related to the real-world counterpart from NASCAR. This handy gadget will calculate how many laps of fuel I have left based on either my last 2 laps or my worst lap. And it'll tell me how many pit stops I need to make it to the end of the race, how many laps I can run on a full tank of gas, how many laps are still left in my tank. It's the handiest thing I've found. Really helps me in long races and helps me know when I need to pit for fuel. So next up we have the telemetry data that I look at. This gives a graphical representation of the inputs I'm putting into the car: steering, throttle, brake, clutch. It'll also simply display what gear I'm in, how many RPM I'm turning, and how fast I'm going. But then another nifty thing is in the center there's a gimbal that'll show a graphical representation of the G-forces that are being exerted on the car, and there's also a numerical representation of that as well. So next we're going to look at the iRacing provided black boxes, which come standard in the sim. Everybody who has the sim can access these. They're displayed in the lower right corner of the screen, and they provide a lot of the information and adjustment options that you can have while you're racing. You can only have one of these open at a time, which is why I'm heavily relying on the sim racing app stuff, so I can have multiple screens to look at. So the first one is the lap timing screen, and this is basically the same data that sim racing apps kicks out for me in the box that's in the lower left hand corner of the screen, so I'm not going to go back over it. Next we have the standing screen, which I don't really use a whole lot because it only updates every time a car crosses the start-finish line, so it's not the most accurate data. Every once in a while you'll see me check it when I've had some issues in the race and I'm a lap down. I'm checking to see if I'm the first car a lap down and in position to get the lucky dog. So that's really all that's handy for me. Next up is the relative screen, which is the screen you're going to see up on my video all the time. This gives me real-time data based on who is around me, how far behind me they are, how far ahead of me they are. That way I can see very easily if I'm gaining on the guy in front of me or losing time to the guy behind me. Next we have the fuel screen, which in most of the races you're going to see on my channel doesn't really do a whole lot for me. This is where you can adjust how much fuel you're going to put in the car. It's iRacing's way of telling you how many laps roughly you have left. But you can also choose to not fuel at all, and this is also where you would select whether you want to clean your windshield by taking a tear off. Now, you'll see me do this on late race pit stops. I'll come in here and I will click off fueling and click off the windshield tear off, because a couple of tenths or a couple of hundredths of a second on pit road could mean gaining a position or two. And that's very handy for people you don't have to pass on the track. Next up is the tire screen, which is where you could make adjustments to your tire pressure on an open setup race, which I'll touch on a little bit later, or just select what tires you want to take. So you can use the replace tick boxes to choose whether you want to take left sides only, right sides only, no tires, or 4 tires. So the next screen we have is the tire info screen, which shows you information about your tires that relates to temperature on the outside, the middle, and the inside of the tire, as well as the wear percentage. So what this indicates is how much of the tread you had left on your tire. This is not real-time data, so when you go into the pits, you're kind of guessing how much you have left. But after you change tires, you can look to see how much wear you had and compare that to how many laps you ran to help you make decisions later in the race. So the next box is the in-car adjustments. There's only one option on here that you're really going to use, the brake bias adjustment. So brake bias tells the car how much work each end of the car does when it tries to slow down. A 50% brake bias would mean the front brakes and the rear brakes do an equal amount of work to slow. A brake bias less than 50% means that the rear brakes do the majority of the work, making the car looser. A brake bias higher than 50% means you're putting more pressure on the front brakes to slow the car, which makes it tighter going into the corner. You can use this over a long run, because over a long run the tires are going to wear out, the cars are going to get tighter, and you can reduce your front brake and help loosen up your car on corner entry. And guys, that pretty much wraps up everything I'm looking at in the car. There's a couple other things that iRacing throws in right underneath the mirror. You can see it gives me information on when the caution's out, how many laps there are until green, who I need to pass, who I need to stay behind, what side I'm on, inside or outside. Then obviously the car's dashboard is there. Top right hand corner shows my frame rate, my latency, my quality, and my force feedback. But really, that's all the data I look at. I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of an insight into the data that I'm taking as I'm racing and give that to you. So if you, hopefully it makes your watching experience a little bit more enjoyable. I appreciate everybody that's been watching. If you liked this video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, turn on notifications, and we'll see you guys next time.